can. I can go through and meet you, I guess. But that way, Kris can talk, and you guys can make whatever noise you want. So, so Kris, do you wanna jump in and start?
Yeah. And you changed the view just for me as well.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Speaker view.
So I just want to get ready for my my social distancing. And what? You know, you can get COVID through Zoom, right? Just kidding. I think there's some people who think you can. I'm going to just tell you guys, I wish I had purchased about 100 of these with the clear, because everywhere I go, people want to know where I got it. And I say Amazon.com, right? And I thought more people would have them. And I'm the only one that I've ever seen, other than the face shield. I'm the only one that's ever seen with this. And let me just tell you the difference it makes. When you go out and you're wearing your normal mask, right? You have to really rely on your eyes to communicate. And it doesn't always work, does it? And so one of the challenges with COVID right now is wanting to communicate with people, wanting to contact people, wanting to make connections to people, wanting to invite them to our small group, invite them to Zoom, invite them to our church. And when you can't communicate, it makes it really difficult. And so what's happening is people are finding themselves not talking at all. They're kind of going to the grocery store and they're just kind of doing what they got to do, or they go to the dry cleaner, or they go to their kids' program, or, you know, sporting event or a concert, and they don't really talk if they have the mask on. So I really wanted a different mask because I like to talk. And so I wanted something that people could see my mouth, and not perfect. It fogs up sometimes, but I got the mask and I did a test and I was absolutely shocked. Literally every person that I see and I wear that mask, they smile back at me. Every single person. And in some cases, they want to know where I got it. I love your mask. I love that I can see your smile. And I don't know how to explain it, guys. Right now we're psychologically being messed with because we can't touch and hug and love on people and be the hands of Jesus, right? And so with that mask, what's happened is that people feel like there's a connection, because we're designed that way, to want to connect. And so I challenge you guys to go on Amazon and buy one for yourself and see how it makes a difference. As I was saying earlier with Greg, or maybe it was it Jim, we were saying, no, it was Greg, was saying that the calling hasn't changed. The mission hasn't changed. And so we just have to find different ways to do the work of God. So to say again who I am, my name is Kris Swiatocho, and I lead a couple different ministries. One is my overall ministry, which is everything from singles to women's to leadership development in churches, Sunday school, small groups, first impressions, all that kind of stuff, to the Singles Network, which is mainly for single adults. And I have like a website, it's like the Wikipedia for singles ministry. And that's how I know Dan I came to Bayside 3 years ago. I don't even know how long ago it was, maybe 3 years ago, and spoke to the singles there. And then I couldn't get rid of them. And we've been friends ever since. And then we're working on a book together. And so, but one of my hearts is small group ministry of any kind, whether it's meeting on a Tuesday night, you know, a Tuesday morning at McDonald's, someone's house, or in a church. I love small group. So I've done a handout for you, and I think Dan is going to put it in the chat. You can download it now, or you can look at it later. It doesn't matter. It's all good. But I'm just going to go through some of the things. Hopefully most of it apply. The outline in general is for if you were physically meeting, but I'm going to talk also about Zoom, because the reality is, yeah, we can't do some of the things because of Zoom, but the process of connecting to people and growing our ministries, growing our small group stays the same. Also, if you have a question, please put it in the chat, and if we have time, we'll get to it, or I can answer it at another time. And then if you have ideas or suggestions or things that also come up that we hadn't thought about, definitely put it in the Zoom. But I've titled the talk "To Infinity and Beyond." How many, show of hands, have seen Toy Story? Toy Story, everybody, pretty much? Yep. Love the series. But what's interesting about the series is that every single movie they had to bring in new characters because they get boring, right? Kind of like our ministries, like our small groups, right? So not that it's okay, not that you can't have the same old people, you know, that's a group that's like, you know, pretty much like a special group, you know, like you're doing a divorce recovery, or you're doing a celebrate recovery, or you're doing a women's, you know, leadership group where it's just this handful of people and it's for a certain reason, but we're supposed to be outward focused. So I find a lot of small groups are very inward focused, and they're kind of like a little club, a holy huddle, you know? And so what I love about To Infinity and Beyond Toy Story is that in order to keep the story interesting, things had to change. The first year, the little boy's little. The second year, he's gotten bigger. And then there comes a little sister. They had to introduce other characters to keep things interesting. And I loved how Buzz's motto is To Infinity and Beyond. And I think about that as like, how far will we go to help someone feel connected to our small group? How far will we go for someone to feel valued, for someone to feel they belong? So it's just something to think about. So Dan, did we pray yet? Would you pray? Did you pray?
Actually, did I pray? I thought I did.
Okay, well,
yeah, I did pray. I prayed
okay.
at the beginning. Yes,
That's,
we're good.
Oh, phew,
Okay.
we got that covered. Sorry. But, you know, I guess we could always pray. God's not going to say, oh, you've got it once, you can't pray again. So, but the challenges, just in general, everyone, the challenges with our small groups are the same. Is how do we reach people? How do we connect? How do we invite them? How do we get them in our small group? And then the big deal is, how do we keep them? Because we sometimes do a pretty good job of connecting the beginning. You know, we do a pretty good job of, you know, maybe we have a neighbor or a friend or somebody, you know, somebody does our nails or somebody works on our car, and we might invite them. Some of us might give them something to hand out and say, come. We might, or we rely on our church to do it. Our church has a big campaign and they're doing pops in the park and they're giving out hot dogs and they're giving out water bottles. We're like, good, my church will invite them. And then they'll go to the website and they'll see, ooh, this massive list, and let's see which one I want to go to. So we a lot of times give the responsibility of contacting people for our church, but God has called us to do it. And so we're going to go over that just a little bit. And then I want to go a little bit deeper in how do we connect with people once they're on our campus and once they're in our classroom or in our small group. So here's a few things, depending on your group, the location, the leaders, the members, the teaching topic, how it's taught, how well people feel welcomed, loved, cared for. All of these things affect your group. Now, some small groups have great numbers, but for some reason, people visit, they don't come back. Some have great teaching, but terrible follow-up. Some have great follow-up, but the teaching's not so good. Now, Dan has informed me that the teaching's excellent at Bayside. So you are very blessed, because I have helped a lot of churches where the small groups are terrible and it's the teacher. And what are you going to do about it? So you guys are very blessed in that way. So how many of you remember what it felt like for the first day of school? Do you remember that? Or maybe first day of a new job, or first day moving somewhere, you don't know anybody? What did that feel like? Just unmute yourself and share. What did that feel like? Who remembers what it felt like that first time? Jim, what did it feel like?
First day at the job was pretty awkward. You know, you don't know anybody and you don't want to say the wrong thing, step on anybody's toes, or look dumb.
Right, because and you definitely don't know who the gossip person is, so you definitely don't want to say it to the wrong person, right? Or you find out it's the owner's son, and you know, and you don't, and you there's no community right away, right? There's no way. What about somebody else? What do you remember when you were a kid or in school? Does anybody remember that experience, the first time you go to school? Who remembers that? Greg.
Well, you're always curious about what teacher you're going to have. Are they going to be nice? Who are the kids that are going to be in my class that were in my class from last year, and some new ones that I'm going to meet? Where am I going to sit, in terms of the placement in the classroom? So just a lot of different unanswered questions, maybe a little anxiety about starting a new year. There is also the excitement, but there's also the trepidation.
Yep, those are all great. And some of those are actually in my outline, which is pretty cool, huh, Dan? And because some of the reasons why people don't go to a small group. So we can all be in agreement that we know that people learn the most when they're in a small group, way better than just sitting on the pew and just having information at them. The value of being able to ask questions back, the value of being able to comment, the value to be able to build relationships is where we grow. And of course, we want community, we want support, we want prayer. In the New Testament, that's how the churches were. They were in people's homes. And so hospitality was a really big deal. This morning, my pastor preached on the fact that, you know, in the Bible, there were no hotels hardly. And the ones they were not the good kind. And so people opened up their homes for people to spend the night. So hospitality, opening your home, building community, connecting with people, even strangers, was a normal thing to do. But today we're not as comfortable being around people we don't know. And we don't really, to be honest with you, not a lot of people like people in their homes, but why not? You know, and who is our neighbor anymore? When I was growing up, and some of you probably are my age range, the neighborhood had permission to discipline you. If a neighbor caught you out doing something wrong, they had permission to scold you. And then they call your mama, right? It was literally a village raising. You respected your elders. You respected that adult who said you were doing something wrong. But today, most of us don't even really know our neighbors, much less let them be involved in saying something to our children. So I have a question. Why do people not join a small group? I've got a list here, but I want to hear from some of you. You named some of them, Greg. Why do you think people, you've got how many people, how many thousands that go to Bayside, and how many are in small groups? So there must be a reason why they don't join. What do you think? Unmute yourself and say something.
Commitment.
Commitment. Okay. That's a very good one. I didn't have that on the list. I need to add that, Dan. What's another reason?
They won't understand my situation. They can't help me. Or
okay. What else?
They just don't feel like they're going to connect in a group.
Right. They don't feel like they're going to connect.
Get into the wrong people, I guess. Yeah.
Yep. What else?
I've been in the same old group. It's just going to be the same old, you know.
Yeah. Oh, these are great answers. There's some of the answers I didn't even have listed. Dan, look at that. You got such an incredibly talented group of people. So let me give you, who else wanted to share? Somebody else was about to talk. Yes.
One more thing, just reluctancy to join for fear of the unknown.
You know, it's funny. What's your name, by the way? You're an iPhone. That's
Rich.
Rick.
Cast-
Rich.
Yeah.
Okay. So Rich, last weekend, I got a chance to witness to a guy in downtown Asheville, North Carolina. And his biggest fear, he was taught by his parents that when you die, you disappear. You just poof, you're gone away. And his biggest fear was the unknown. And so he was wearing a mask and a scarf and a face shield, walking around downtown Asheville because he wanted community. He wanted to talk with people and see people, and he wanted to share his poetry. But at the same time, he had that huge fear of dying, the unknown. So here's a few more, and you might relate to these, and it might think of some other ideas, but I want to tell you these because I want you to be aware that when you're talking to people and inviting them, these may be some of the reasons they don't come. They're not sure where it is again. What time is it again? What time does it start? What time does it end? What if it doesn't end on time? I got things I got to do. What if they just go on and on and on? Okay. Like I can do, right? What's the teaching topic again? How long is it going to be? What's it on? Will I enjoy the topic? Maybe it's going to be on Lamentations or Deuteronomy. I don't think so, right? Or the environment. Do they have pets? I don't like pets. I'm allergic to dogs. What if the dog bites me? They got a cat. I don't like cats, you know? What about their house smells? What if they don't clean very much? You know, I've been to some houses, people are hoarders. They open up everybody, but I don't want to go to a house there's a hoarder. You know, I've had even people complain about parking. Like, I don't want to have to park and get blocked in, right? Or what if they have kids and the kids keep running around? I've been to those small groups. Yep. Everybody had kids except me. Oh, that was fun. Okay. I guess when you have kids, you just kind of block them out. But when you don't have children, I can't block them out, you know? Other things, is there going to be food? And then Greg, you mentioned, where do I sit? Am I going to get the comfortable chair? I better get there early. You know, well, I don't know if there's a comfortable chair. I've never been. And I might have to end up sitting on a hard chair. And maybe I'm a little wider than the chair and I'm not going to be comfortable, you know? Here's another one. Will I be expected to have to bring stuff every week? Like food. And I must have to cook. Or what if they have food there and I don't like the food? Will they ask me questions that I don't know the answers to? Maybe like really serious Bible questions, or maybe I have to pray out loud. I don't know. I don't know if I can go. I don't know. What if I don't like it and I don't want to go back? And I don't want to have to I don't have to tell anybody why I don't like it. Or can I just go to different ones? Why do I have to go to the same one all the time? That goes back to that commitment issue. And will there be people like me there? Will there be other married people, other single people, people with children, people with grown children, people with a disability, people that have my skin color, people that are from my background? I don't know. So I don't think I'm going to go. And then another one, will I feel safe? Will it be in a safe neighborhood, a safe area of town? Will I feel safe when I go? Do I have anybody to walk me to my car if it's late at night? And then there's many others. Those are just a few that I've heard over the years that people have said. So the challenge is, great, my church does all this marketing, but if they still won't come, then it really comes down to me. And me getting to know them to invite them to our group. Me reaching out, me spending time with them, me inviting them and saying, I'll meet you there, or we'll come by and pick you up, me and my wife. Or if you're a single adult, I'll come by and pick you up, especially if you're cute. Excuse me, that's another talk. Anyway, so let's say they do visit, okay? They visited, okay, all right, guys, right? Rebecca and Kris and Shauna, they visited, but they don't come back. Like, what do we do wrong, right? I don't know. Well, here's a few more reasons. They came for a handout and we got tired of handing out. Do you know the types? You ever met those? They come and they dump all their problems and they constantly talk about all their stuff. They can't pay this bill and they can't pay that bill. And you begin to notice that this is a pattern. And you begin to notice that they've gone from your class, your group, to the next group, to the next group. And there's a point where you're like, you know, we can't keep helping you because we see nothing on your end. And we're beginning to go, this person is not really in need. This person's in want. So that's a reason they don't come back. Another reason is it's just simply not where God wants them. It's okay. You know, they need to find their right place. Another one is your group appears unorganized. You don't seem to know what you're doing. It makes people uncomfortable because you're not organized. One person seems to dominate all the conversation and never lets anybody else share. Or there's cliques. There's little cliques, those little groups of people, and they all go do stuff together. And they're so cute. Little couples go with other couples, you know, and then you feel kind of weird and, you know, and then this is the big one. They didn't feel they belonged. Nobody welcomed them. Nobody included them. They never got that email. They never got that follow-up. They never got that text. They didn't know there was a gathering, a cookout, a picnic. They didn't know anything. And that's the reason they don't come back. Any other reasons you can think of that people don't come back? Okay, you guys are good then. All right. So like in all of our groups, all of our small groups, we grow as we connect to Christ and to each other. And so our purpose in life is a relationship with Christ that glorifies him. And out of that relationship, a relationship with others to bring people to Christ. That's simple. And our small group is what makes it unique in order to do that. So in all things, in our small group, in all things, we have to obviously pray. That's a duh. But can I tell you guys how many small groups out there don't pray? They pray for the health. They pray for their cousin. They pray for their job. They pray for their bad hip. They pray for their grandbabies, but never pray for the direction of the class. They never prayed that we need to change things, that we need to maybe move things around, that maybe we need to change the time, or maybe we need to go out into the community more, or maybe we need to, ask for, maybe to, once the message is shared, a different way to talk about the message. They don't talk about any service projects they want to do or socials or anything. It's just praying for each other's health. And so without direction, Nehemiah, without direction, how do you know if your group is even good? How do you know if you're meeting the needs of the people in your group? How do you know if you're being effective reaching out to others without prayer? But that's one of the biggest things that I'll ask people. And they say, well, we're praying every time we get together, we pray. In fact, our prayers, the older the classroom, the older the small group is, the more prayer needs there are, right? And then I have to go, well, you know what? You probably need to work on your prayer cards. Like, what do you mean? Like, you need to stop letting people talk verbally about the prayer needs. And they put them on little index cards, or they type them in or text them in, or because you don't want your entire small group to be about everybody's physical issues, you know, so there has to be a balance. But without prayer, without talking about the structure of your small group and what's working and not working, you're not going to know that. So let's keep going. And let's talk about our different ways that we can contact people. So today's message is called Contacting, Connecting, and Keeping. So obviously contacting should be pretty easy for everybody, although I don't think people think about it that much. This is contacting somebody outside the church. The biggest thing is finding common interests. And you guys know this. I'm sure you know, you're at a, you know, women, we're really good at this because we'll comment on everything, you know. I mean, women will be in the restroom and we'll be like, oh, girl, I like those shoes. That is some cute shoes. And you're like, if a guy was in the restroom going, hey, buddy, like those sneakers, that other guy would run, right? You're like, what is some weirdo in the bathroom? But women can start a conversation about anything, anywhere. But what do we do with that conversation? So we want to look to try to find something in common. We want to start a conversation to find something in common. So when I wear this, it starts a conversation. That can lead to something else. That can lead to like, oh goodness, yeah, I just came from my church. It was so awesome. I'm a greeter at my church. It's so wonderful. Do you go to church? How easy it is to start the first connection to find something in common. Because when people have something in common, it connects them. If there's nothing in common, they don't connect. Makes sense, right? It's perfectly logical. Proverbs 22:2 says, rich and poor have this in common. The Lord is the maker of them all. So obviously we know all the places, guys, our gyms, concerts, shopping, neighborhood, your kid's coach, your neighbor, friends of a friend. Do you know that 80% of all people that come to know the Lord, it's through a person. It's through a contact, a connection with someone else. Obviously, doctor's offices, your kid's teacher, the dry cleaner, a waitress. But here's the big thing. Once you connect to them, here's the thing, you need to have something to give them. And then you need to get their information from them as well. So we're all good. We'll be at the restaurant and you'll be like, here's the waitress. And some of you are good at this now because you've heard about it. You're like, well, hi, it's nice to meet you. Hey, Susie, is that your name? Susie. Oh, it's nice. Yeah, I'm Kris. Hey. So Susie, we're getting ready to pray for our meal. Is there anything that we could pray for you for? And so Susie's going to do several things. She's going to either go, I'm good. Then she definitely needs prayer. Or she's going to say, pray for my mama, which means she might be a believer, but not completely. Or she may say, yeah, pray for me because she wants a bigger tip, you know. But nevertheless, here's the thing. She's got to come back. Okay? She's got to come back to the table. You know, so here's your opportunity to say, oh, you're in school? We'd love to pray for your school. Give me a little more information. And just say, you know, we have an amazing college ministry at our church. So maybe they're not going to be in your small group, but they're going to be in a small group. So what's great is you go, let me give you my card. Maybe give your card on the church. I found out from Dan that you can get some cards with your name on them. Your small group information. You give her that information. And if you happen to know who the college pastor is, you get her information and hand that information over to the college pastor. Or if it is somebody that's in your small group demographic, you give them your name. If you're a guy talking to a girl, you give your wife's name or you give a woman's name. But the point is you want to give your information to them. Don't just leave it there. But it's got to, if you don't get theirs, I promise you, the odds of them coming are slim to none. Because remember that big long list you made? They're going to come up with some reason why they are not going to come. And I'm going to tell you, for all you that are married, as a single, we don't like going to small groups. We don't like it. It's not the group. It's going the first time. We don't know anybody. We don't have a backup. We can't go, hey, honey, I think the kids are calling. There ain't no kids, right? And so that for us is very difficult. So think about that when you're out inviting people. If you invite a married person, they've got that support system. If they get there and they don't like it, they can leave and they're okay. But when you get there and you go, I don't want to be here, they're going to notice I disappeared, you know? Oh, I got to go to the restroom, excuse me, I'm out of here. So keep that in mind when inviting. But if you can go to the next level and say, do you need a ride? I can come get you. I can meet you at the front door of the house. Would you like that? Or how about, would you like to have coffee first? And that make you feel more comfortable. But just keep that in mind, that when you're out connecting, the dry cleaner, the neighbor, whatever, don't just say, hey, come to church. What does that mean? But go to that next thing and say, what would I want someone to do for me? If you can get rid of as many of the fears as possible, where it's at, what time, what's expected, do I need to bring anything, where am I going to sit, do you have pets, do you have kids? If you can answer as much of that ahead of time, I think you'll have a higher chance of somebody coming. So let's keep going. The key to successful connecting to people outside your church is to have information, but you have to be intentional every day. Every day you have to pray. Every day you have to ask God, what can I do today? Maybe we're in COVID and you're not doing your normal routine, but I promise you go to Walmart. I promise you're going to a grocery store. I promise you're going on a walk or a hike somewhere. Pray and ask God, I want an incident. I want a divine moment. Have me connect with somebody for some reason that I can invite. And even if it's not my small group, even if it's just, it might be somebody else's small group, it may just be for the kingdom, but give me that person and help me not be so preoccupied with my life that I miss it. Because God lines up things all day long. And if you say, well, I never leave my house. I've been here since March, Kris. So you've never emailed nobody? You never texted nobody? Of course you have. There's all kinds of ways to reach people for the Lord. I bet you there's a big, long list of people that haven't been back to Bayside in a while. And I bet you could get that list and you could contact every single one on that list and just say, hey, I just want to see how you're doing. There's all different ways that we can fulfill the calling that God has given us. So let's go to the next one. This is connecting within the church, within the building itself, okay? So whether you're doing the lawn ministry where you're outside, or the day you get to be inside, or, it doesn't matter. This kind of covers all of that, and keeping Zoom in mind as well. So this is the thing that's really good. And so you can do this, guys, really anywhere. It's called Take 5. You're going to take 5 minutes to talk to one person that you've never met. You don't know them. Or don't know them well, or talk to 5 people 1 minute apiece. And the point of this is every single time you go to a gathering, a big church gathering of any kind, or for that matter, it could even be your small group. If it's a big enough small group, you might not know everybody, but I want you to be intentional about reaching and talking to somebody you don't know, because our flesh has a tendency to go to people we do know. Hey, how you doing? Oh, it's so good. How you doing? How you doing? Right? We do that. We go because we feel safe. But that's not what Jesus did. So we want to do what Jesus did. There's a time and a place for us to be around people we know. But when it's a church gathering, I think you need to look for people you don't know. So here's a few more things on that one. Obviously, introduce yourself and ask them how long they've been coming to church. This way you avoid that weird feeling like, I've been coming here for 10 years and like, you should know me by now. And of course, that'd be terrible if you dated them or something and then you didn't know them. But it's the thing is, like, I always go to somebody, instead of saying, hi, I don't believe I know you. And they go, you could just say, hey, how you doing? Hey, remind me how long you've been coming to Bayside. And they'll go, oh, I just started. This is my first time. I've only come for a couple months. Good, right? But if they say, oh, I've been coming for 5 years, what's the next question? What small group are you in? Oh, I'm in Bob Smith's small group. Oh, tell me about it. Do you really like it? What do you like about it? Be honest with you, I'm looking for a new group. Oh, well, why are you looking for a new group? I moved. Oh, well, maybe you should come to ours. There's lots of information can come after that initial conversation. Or, are you in a small group? No, I'm not. Any particular reason? Well, I've got my 5 kids I've got some, at nighttime I don't drive well, or they'll give you reasons why they don't, but you can at least ask them. And so again, if it's not your group, it's okay. It could maybe be somebody else's. That must mean you have to know about other groups, right? This means you might need to know the person who's in charge of the group so you can maybe help them and connect them to that person. That means you might need to know something about your church and the events that are going on and the activities that are going on, so you'll have information to give them. And I love it when they say, my next question is always, this is the easy one. So you've been coming to Bayside for a while. Oh, and you're in the Bob Smith small group. That's great. So how are you serving? And do you know how many people are doing nothing? Nothing. And this is my, so then I can't wait to go, well, let me tell you, we can really use some help in our small group, or we can use some help as a greeting at the church. We can use some help, which again, that means you need to know what's going on in the church so you know how best to plug people in, because we're all miniature pastors, right? We're all miniature ministers of the church. And so we all don't need to put it off on someone else. We need to say, well, you know what? I need to know what's going on so I can help direct people. We go on. The more you know about your church and the other small groups, as well as your own activities, etc., the more you're going to connect people. The more ways they connect, the less likely they are to disconnect. So if somebody's in your small group, they're a greeter in your small group, or maybe they are in charge of hospitality or whatever roles that you have. And then they also greet at the big church. And then they also, teach occasionally to 3-year-olds, and they also do a mission trip. The more places they're connected, if one of them disconnects, they're still connected. The problem is a lot of people are only connected in one way. Okay. So if they only sit and watch service online, we'll never see them again. We have no idea. But if we have service online and they're in a small group, that's 2 connections. But you know what? All they have to do is unplug their computer and we'd never know what happened to them. So then what's the next one? I probably need to call them and talk to them and have coffee or lunch with them. That's another connection. You know what? I found out their kid is sick. I'm going to go to the hospital. They'll let me in, or at least I'll go and pray with them in the lobby. Okay, that's another connection. You know what? They're raising money for a mission trip. You know what? I could probably donate. That's another connection. These are all, and the more connections, the less likely they disconnect, which leads to why, people don't come back. So we have learned why people don't join, why they don't come back, connecting outside the church building and connecting within the church building. Now we're going to talk about connecting your small group. So whether you're new or whether you're new or a regular person that comes to your church or to your small group, these list of things are the same. Now I realize that right now we don't have, a lot of you are not meeting physically, but you're meeting through Zoom. But I'm gonna just tell you, even through Zoom, you need some of these things, okay? I lead a small group on Wednesday nights, about 40 people. And we apply all these within that group to the best that we can. And so I'm gonna talk about both of them. And some of you guys are probably already doing them. So the first one is greeters. You have to have people that are willing to talk to people when they come in, right? And I like exit greeters too, people to say goodbye. I like that as well. But greeters need to know what's going on in the group. They need to have all the information. They're the first person they're going to see, and they need to feel welcomed and connected. Also, your greeters need to be trained on how do you greet? What does that look like? And being helpful. And if they're in person, they got to have good breath. Ooh, right? This is my pet peeve. They'll be drinking coffee. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Right? Oh my gosh. People, and then some people are like, good morning, good morning, good morning. Like, why are they greeting? I was at a church one time. Dan knows this pastor. I'm not going to say who his name is because it might get back to him. So I was at a church one time and they hired me to do the first impressions for the church because they said our greeting's really terrible. Well, let's just say most greeting ministries at churches could do improvements. This one was terrible. One greeter, about 27 doors. So I went to find the one greeter and I decided to greet with him. He was terrible. He was mean to people. He wouldn't stand outside. And I went back and I complained about him and they said, oh, he has cancer. He's dying soon. We're just going to let him continue to greet. Okay. So I went back to the door and I said, what would happen if somebody came and needed you to walk them to a classroom? He said, well, they'll just have to figure it out on their own. Okay. And I said, well, can I greet with you? He goes, no, go find your own door. And I'm like, okay, so you all know what I mean. You think it's a simple job, but you do have to have, a personality of some kind. So we need greeters, even in our Zoom. Icebreakers. You know, I love Icebreakers. It's a safe way to connect. I have permission to find out things about you that I would normally not do, especially when you're married. It would be weird to go up to a man if you're a woman and ask a question when you don't know them. It'd be kind of awkward. It's the same with people who are not married too. But when you do an icebreaker, it gives everybody permission to ask a stupid question. Like, what's your favorite dessert? You know, where would you like to go on vacation? The whole reason, guys, is to just to give people, like, ease them into a group, ease them into going around and sharing a little bit about yourself and, you know, something that you like to do, because all of a sudden you go, oh, you want to go to Tahiti? I've always wanted to go to Tahiti. Oh, you like to hike? I like to hike. You like chocolate cake? I brought some. And all of a sudden now that's the chocolate cake girl and that's the Tahiti guy, you know? And you may not even remember their names, but you remember Tahiti and chocolate. And again, the next week you can go, that chocolate cake last week was wonderful. And that person goes, thank you. And hey, by the way, I think we're trying to figure out how to do a mission trip to Tahiti. Yeah, we talked to Pastor Dan about it. He's like, I don't know. I said, hey man, people in Tahiti need Jesus too, you know. So let's keep going here. If you don't have an icebreaker, you want to make sure that you put people at tables, or I would say tables, or you put people in a small group, you do breakout groups where someone's going to talk to them. Someone's going to notice that they're quiet and they never talk. And they're going to ask them questions, not to make them uncomfortable, but to help them belong. When you get back to meeting physically, you always want to save tables and doors closest to the main door. You want to save chairs and tables closest to the door for late people. And the worst thing you can do is a new person comes in and they have to sit in the front. Somebody, I think, unmuted themselves, Dan. Offer refreshments, although I'm not big on people eating while we're doing Zoom, but it happens all the time. Refreshments, I'll tell you why we do refreshments, guys, is because besides the fact that we just like to eat, we know scientifically, probably some of you guys know, when someone's holding something in their hand, in their right hand, and they normally shake in their right hand, if they hold it in their right hand and they go, hi, it's nice to meet you, it's good to meet you too, they're protecting their bubble. Okay, they're protecting this space. I'm not giving you my right hand to shake. I'm holding something else in my right hand. So that tells me I'm not quite ready to know you that well. If you move it to your other hand, then your right hand is, you're ready to handshake. And that's saying I'm inviting you into my space a little bit. If you have a plate of food at the same time, you're saying, please get away from me. No, I'm just kidding. So we do this because we know that it helps people feel comfortable. So having refreshments at our small group is good, but it can't dominate our time. And so we have to be strategic about when we have it. Name tags. If I get one more curmudgeon old man, I'm not wearing a name tag, drives me bananas, because heaven forbid the world revolves around you. The point of a name tag, it's not for you. You know your name. And you know maybe some of the regular people, but you don't know the new person and they don't know you. And again, we're trying to create connection. The more places they're connected, the better. And we're trying to help them. So when you make a reference and you say, yeah, Greg was the school teacher. Which one was Greg? I don't know. Which. And then you have a gigantic Greg with your small last name of Corby, you know, that's going to help them connect with you. Having table discussion questions about the lesson, training a table host to make sure, you know, people need smaller groups, even tinier groups, to be able to ask questions. We know that because that quiet one may not talk in the big group, but that quiet one will talk in a smaller group. But you have to train your leaders because they're miniature pastors. They're going to listen for unusual answers. Right now, guys, we had to have a little suicide pep talk because we have people that are literally on the edge. We have people that are putting in the chat, I don't want to live anymore. I can't handle this anymore. I've lost my job. I've lost my place to live. I don't have anybody that checks on me. My church never calls me. And I'm like, what? So I've trained our breakout leaders to look for those things, to listen for answers to questions or people that we don't see in a while. We want to find out what's going on with you. We don't want anybody to fall through the cracks. Nobody to fall through the cracks. And shame on us if they don't come back because they don't feel called or they're there just to get a handout and they don't. That's not on me, but shame on me that I haven't checked on them. Shame on me that I didn't follow up the way I was supposed to. Shame on me that I just figured they would figure it out. We go to a big church. It'll just work itself out. They can go online and look on the website. Guys, it hasn't changed since the beginning of time. Personal connection, a handshake, a hug, a side hug, eye contact, telling somebody you appreciate them, remembering something about them, remembering that they're divorced, remembering they have kids, remembering they're retired. Anything that you can help to connect them is going to make them feel that that you care about them. You need to encourage regulars to sit in different places each week, you chair hoarders. I love to go to a traditional church and sit in the pew that you know is somebody's pew. Y'all know what I mean, right? And you sit down and some little old lady walks up and goes, "Hi, honey." I'm like, "Well, hey." She's like, "That's my seat for me and my family." I'm like, "This is my first time. Thank you for letting me sit here." But we do that. We're creatures of habit. We go back to the same section of the church. My mother sits 3 rows back, 3 seats in for the last 30 years, okay? It don't matter what church. It's the same three, crazy. We're creatures of habit. We sit in the same place. It's where we're comfortable. But it's not great for meeting new people. It's not great for connecting to people. Some of us are not even good at connecting to the ones we've been in a group with for maybe even years, for whatever reason. Invite new people to lunch, to coffee, get their info, but also personally get their info. Not only do you need to get it for the small group, but you get it, you follow up, make them your Facebook friend, your Instagram friend. Be sure to learn about their lives, their families, major life changes, kids moving out, surgeries coming up, financial needs. Get them involved in the ministry of your small group. I like to do this thing called voluntelling. That might be a Southern thing. Can y'all tell I'm from the South? Probably, right? Yeah, Southern California. Anyway, and so I do this thing called voluntelling. And what it means is if we're in a small group and we're sitting around and we just got through drinking coffee and having snacks and people kind of, the chairs are all over the place, I'll say, "Hey, new person, will you help me a second stack these chairs? Would you help me get up the trash here?" Because if they're not doing nothing, no one's talking to them. Somebody should have been talking to them, but if they weren't talking to them, and I wait to see what they do. And they may say, "Oh, I've got to go." "Oh, okay, no problems. Well, hey, I'll give you a call this week. I'd like to hear what you thought about our small group." Okay. But if they go, "Yeah, I'll help," I'm like, another connection. I just made another touch, right? And so all of a sudden they're like, because really, guys, a lot of them just want to be needed, want to be valued, want to be included. Now, they may say, "Oh, I've got little kids. My husband and I need to leave." Hey, no problem. But it still doesn't mean you can't follow up and talk to them. But most people will stay to help. So remember, the more you know about a person, the more they'll connect. The more places they connect, things you have in common, the more you will connect. The more they're connected to people and the things going on in your church or small group, the less likely they disconnect. So this leads to the big one, belonging. That's the goal. We want them to belong. I think, Greg, you made a comment about that, or maybe Rich did. The reason they don't come back is they don't feel, no, I think that was Kathy. Somebody said they don't feel like anybody gives a flip that they're there or not. They just kind of come in, they go out, they're nothing, they're a number. And do you know that's what the enemy loves to do? He loves to isolate us. I'm sure he's sitting back with COVID going, "I got them now. They'll never go back." Yeah, they'll never do anything for Jesus. I got them now. In the name of Jesus, we bind that in the name of Jesus. So here's a scripture. Romans 12:5 said, "So in Christ, we who are many form one body, and each member belongs to all the others." What? You mean the person in my small group belongs? We all belong together? Like we're like all connected? When you come to know the Lord, you belong to each other? But some people who come to your small group and come to your church don't feel that way because we haven't done what we need to do. Most churches encourage us to join our church. And I go, join our church. What does that look like? If I join, what does that look like versus belonging? So what do you think the difference is of joining the church, joining your small group, or belonging to your small group? Unmute yourself. We got Sherry and Shauna and Trisha.
I think joining is like joining a gym membership. So you can skip it sometimes if you aren't up for it.
right? And they're not going to know whether you're there or not unless you go through the machine and they check out, but they don't really care. They just want your money, most of them, right?
Yeah.
So you just joined it. How many people are in? How many Walgreens and Panera and all these things we've joined, right? We get coupons or whatever. That's joining. Okay. So what do you think belonging is then? What do you think the difference is when you belong to something? Come on, y'all. Roy, Kathy, Valerie. What do you think?
Belonging is more like family. Belonging. You're attached. You're one of them.
Yes. You're attached. You're a family member, right? Kathy, what are you going to say?
I was going to say the same thing, that you're a part of. So if you belong to a church, you're invested in that church.
Right, right. If you just think about that, we belong to Jesus. When you accept him, you become your adopted child. You're his. You belong to him. I remember years ago when I was young, I'd fallen away from God. I got saved at 19, fell away. And I remember God chased after me. And I remember him saying to me, I own you. You belong to me. You can run all you want to run. You can fall into all kinds of mess. You can hook up with every kind of fella you can think of and drink and do all these things. But I own you. My spirit's living in you. I'm never going to let you go, and you're never going to be alone. And I remember hearing that. I have joined many churches, but the difference with what someone experiences when they join something versus belonging is that attachment. When you're in a family, there's responsibility in that family. There's expectations in that family. And that's scary for some because they don't know what that looks like, but you can baby step it. You can baby step what it looks like. Some of you became family and you got married, and all of a sudden you didn't just marry him, you married all of them, right? But you had to baby step into the family. You couldn't just jump in and know everything that's going on. You had to slowly get to know the members of that family and then belong. So this is why we lose connections with folks. We're only physically connected to them one way, and life happens and we lose them. We only know one thing about them or their family. We only see them in our small groups. We've not built community. Our follow-up is inconsistent. Acts 2:44-45 says, all the believers were together and had everything in common, selling their possessions and goods. They gave to anyone who had need. But when we're not building that community, when we're not helping people to belong, this is not lived out. So here's some questions to ask. Have I taken the time to really get to know these people? And challenge yourself on what that should look like. For some people, a text, they're thrilled with a text. Some people want messenger. Some people just want to talk and you to listen. Some people need $5. They need a cup of coffee somewhere. You know, some people just need to know someone's praying for them. And not just, I'll pray for you, but pray. Even if you have to text it out. Texting a prayer is better than just saying, I'll pray for you. That don't mean nothing. Pray right then and there. I've had so many, I was so confused, Dan, if you prayed or not. I've been prayed for so many times today. I'm just like, and I've needed all of it, I guess, right? Oh my goodness. Have you had coffee? Here's the thing with some of you. Have you ever invited somebody over for dinner? What happened to that? We invited people to dinner and had dinner and got to know their lives. Well, I don't want to get that involved, Kris. They might have a lot of problems. I don't want to I like my house. It's my sanctuary. It's my little place. Well, then go out to eat. Go eat outside. Get a picnic and go on a picnic. But guess what? Ministry's messy. And Jesus took the time to get in your mess. Why don't you want to get in somebody else's mess a little bit? I'm not saying you got to get in 20 people's messes, but if you strategically every week said, I'm going to call, get to know one person and spend some time with them and help them connect to the body and to the church. Trust God on how much time you need to put and who you need to put it in. I'm not saying you got to know everybody unlike Facebook, right? You don't have to know everybody. Another one, have you asked them to serve in your small group? And then if you did you train them? One of the biggest pet peeves in ministry is that we ask people to help, but then we don't tell them what's expected and how to do the job. Well, I didn't know I was supposed to call people. I didn't know I was supposed to buy food. I didn't know I was supposed to be the one in charge. I didn't know, because you never told them. I said, your ministry, your small group needs to look like the operating table. You want everybody to have a job. You want everybody to know their job. You want everybody trained in their job. You want them training the next generation because you want your small group to multiply. You want to build other ones. You want to train people up, and you want to get along with everybody, because I don't want nobody cutting on me that doesn't like each other, right? In some of our small group structures, some people don't like each other. Here's another one. Have you created an environment where people can ask questions, suggest changes, and not get ignored? Have you created an environment of community, valuing each other? Remember, when people feel loved and cared for, included, they'll begin to belong. When they belong, they get involved and they serve, taking ownership of your small group, and ownership that leads to growth for themselves, for each other, and for the kingdom. Galatians 6:10 says, therefore, as we have an opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially those who belong to the family of believers. So here's one little last thing. What about, Kris, when they attend, but they really aren't connecting, and they're sporadic in their attendance, and I've tried to reach out to them, I've tried to call them, and there seems to be nothing. If you've spent time with them personally, you've gone to coffee, you've met them at the church, you've talked on the phone, and it doesn't seem to go anywhere, you can't ask them. Be prepared and say, hey, why aren't you coming? Why are you sporadic? Why is there inconsistencies? And wait for the answer, because it could be they have a sick mother they're taking care of. It could be that they've lost their job. It could be that they don't feel connected. Find out if you can help them to get connected. I just ask folks to see what they would say. What do you like about our small group? What are we doing well? What are we not doing well? Ask them if they've taken a spiritual gift test. I always like to ask that to help them to find a place to fit and to serve. Pray with them creates a level of intimacy and accountability. And I get it, girl, guy, you have to kind of be careful. But as a married couple, you could definitely pray with an individual. Follow up with them on things that you've talked about and prayed about. I love Messenger and Facebook because I can see my thread of conversations I've had with people. And then I can go, oh, how's your mom doing? And people go, you remember? I'm like, no, thank God Messenger remembered, right? How's your dog? I see you buried, little Fluffy, and so this helps me. And especially if you've only been given a little group of people for yourself. My background is a Southern Baptist, where we do this thing called care groups, and care groups, you get a handful of people that are just your responsibility. So if you only have 3 or 4 people underneath you, you can definitely look at their Facebook and Instagram pages throughout the week. You want to affirm positive behavior. When somebody's doing something that's good and they still are not involved or continue to be sporadic, got an attitude, divisive, toxic, all these things, wait on God to release them from you and move on to others. Because there's bound to be people who want to be there. They just are fearful. They want to be there, but they've got stuff going on in their life. They want to be there, but they don't know how to make that connection. They want to be there, but they feel isolated. 1 John 2:19 says, they went out from us, but they did not really belong to us. For if they belonged to us, they would have remained with us. But their going showed that none of them belonged to us. So I just release them, and I go on to those that God has put in my path and has told me to talk to them. So I don't think we have time to do this last 2 things, but Dan, I'd love to just pose those 2 questions. What are some ways that we can better connect with people outside our small group, and some better ways that we can connect with those that are already coming? Are your brains exploding now? So.
There, I put them in the chat stream. Oop, I put it twice.
That's okay. So thoughts, comments, or ideas on how we can better connect with people outside. I mean, in lieu of the fact that we do have COVID. So, or even those that are already in your small groups that maybe you're doing Zoom with, or you're in person, that you could do, a better job. What are some things? What do you think? Just unmute yourself. There you go, Kathy.
I do. I have a question. How do you, when you have, let's say, used to be a women's Bible study group, that you have new people coming in each time with a new study, how do you keep that connection with those folks? Or is that okay that they're going to rotate in? That study's not for them. They'll come back when there's another study. Because we have a couple of those groups.
Yeah. And that's, again, one of the reasons is the topic. I'm not interested in that topic. And if the church has given me freedom to change around, because I am a grown up, but what's happened to you is you've built relationships with these people and they're going, and you got to start all over. Well, that's called the kingdom. That's called ministry. So what I would do, Kathy, is that I would make sure they're leaving for those reasons. Okay. And if they are, thank you, God, I release because God's about to give you a new crop. Okay. But also, if they're leaving for a wrong reason, if something's happened, you want to dip that, because people complain and they tell lots of people when something bad has happened. And so we want to nip that. We want to say, oh, what happened was somebody was rude to me, or somebody ignored me, or they didn't call me. That's my biggest pain. I got my feelings hurt. I'm not coming back, or nobody called me. And I'm like, well, gosh, did you call them? But anyway, so I would want to find out the reason. And if it's a legit, let them go. Or it's, well, I don't know what I want to do. And I'm just kind of checking around and go, well, why? Is there something we haven't done? Well, I don't know. I just didn't feel like I connected as much. And go, well, how about, could you help me? What do you mean? Could you maybe come help me set up one week? And that may be all that was needed. But if you don't talk
people
to people
who have a
and
job,
ask them,
if somebody has a job, then they're committed. They belong.
They belong.
So if they belong, they won't feel like checking in and out, because that's just more of a spectator type approach.
Right. And here's the thing too, guys, if they, even if they are serving, let's say they're a greeter, they bring you refreshments, or they're making phone calls, and they go, I really would love to be in that women's study for the next 12 weeks. They're going to come to you and go, Kathy, I really want to be in that Beth Moore study. But I know I'm in charge of hospitality, but I've got 3 ladies underneath me that are willing to take it over while I'm gone for 12 weeks. Well, that's what a leader does. They're responsible and they're grown up, hopefully. It's the ones that they're not doing anything, or the ones that kind of go in and out because they have not made an attachment. They've not belonged anywhere. So there's no loyalty. So yes, somebody else was about to say something too. I want to hear from some of you people who haven't said nothing. We got Roy over here. I like that name, Roy. That's like a good old Southern name. And we got Shauna.
Roy and Barbara lead a married couples ministry.
Yep. So what any other thoughts? What are some other ways that we can do better outside of your small group? What are some better ways we can connect? What do you think? Shauna, I know you're talking. I saw you talking to your man.
I was asking him, I missed the question. Say it one more time, please.
So we put it in the chat. It's how do we better connect to those outside our small group, maybe in our community or in our, hiking, whatever. What are some better ways that you could, even if you're like, well, I've never thought about doing that. I've never thought about giving out a business card. I've never thought about, the old fashioned was you give out a bulletin, but not everybody does bulletins anymore. Mm-hmm. So what are some other ways that we can connect with people outside the church, and ways that we can connect better within our small groups?
One thing
He's frozen.
Thought about a long time.
He's frozen, Dan.
We're not hearing you, Rich.
He's frozen too.
Uh-oh.
He might have to go out and come back in.
Yeah.
So,
I got an idea. Our group, we have a couple of men that are really good at killing moles. So they go to their neighbor's house and kill them. And I'm looking into making up some shirts because we're calling them the Holy Moles.
The Holy Moly. I like that. Yes.
But they're Holy Moles. So they're good at going to their neighbors and killing moles. So I'm going to bring that up at our next group, saying, hey,
that's great.
There.
That's just, again, that's a creative way to stay connected. I just want you to remember what it feels like to not be connected to something. And what would you want someone to do for you? Would you want somebody to say, I'll meet you out front so you don't have to sit by yourself? Would you want someone to say, hey, let's have a cup of coffee before we have the small group? Or let me tell you what we've already done in the group. I know you've started late and we've already got 3 weeks into the book, but I'll meet with you to go over what we've gone. I mean, think about those extra things that we could do to help somebody feel better about being in our small group. What else? Jim, I know you got something to say. No, nothing to say?
I got something.
Okay.
My battery went dead, and I was about to say something, so I plugged into my wife's phone.
Your wife's, because otherwise your name changed. Okay.
Yeah, Lisa, she's right here listening. Anyway, just something in the past, I think when we were Redwood, I know we're not having church indoors because of COVID, but representatives from groups getting up just for a short blip during announcements and giving a short testimony of why they like being in their small group or reasons to be in a small group, but actually members in our groups, not, it could be us, but it could be members too, something like that.
Well, let me tell you guys, and maybe Dan, if you guys are open to this, I'd be happy to do this again with your group another week. But I just got through doing a talk on creative things for our small groups and Sunday school classes and ministries. And these are all kinds of things that you do to help create that connection. So, and they're creative. I've been collecting them for years. So it's not just, here's a good example, Rich. It's not just going out to dinner, but let's do an appetizer hop. And what you do is you go to a place where there's lots of restaurants and you go in as a group and you just get an appetizer. You just like stand at the bar or whatever, get appetizer. And then everybody puts down a couple bucks and you eat that and get water. And then you go to the next place. The next place, like the old fashioned beer hop, if you remember that, but no beer involved. And the point is that somebody's going to say, what are you guys doing? Or you can do a dessert hop, but it's just this fun thing that you can do as a group out in public, in which you are hoping they're going to ask you, what are you doing? And you can tell them. My big thing is that, I don't mind hot dogs in the park and water bottles in the park. But if you don't know how to share your faith, that would maybe be the first thing that I would teach is how, if somebody were to ask you why you believe what you believe, then can you tell them? But I think because of COVID, thinking outside the box a little bit, thinking of ways that, we can connect with people. And I'm just telling you, if you just get one of these, I promise you, I'm not joking. It freaks me out. Sometimes I wish I had this one in my purse to just shut people up. Everybody freaks out because we want so bad to see our lips. We want so bad to touch somebody. I just touch them anyway, but we want so bad. And I'm just going, Lord, this is the tiniest thing. It's a clear piece of plastic. And that just makes people feel safe. And when they feel safe, they talk, and that opens up the door. So maybe you all get a bunch of these, Dan. Got to order them for the church. Is it in the budget? Everybody gets one. You guys do a test. All of you put one on and go to Walmart one evening and just see how many conversations you can get started. Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Love the idea.
Some of you are like, I'm not going. I'll be back at the small group making the cake. Okay, we need everybody to do everything. Okay. The arms, legs, the feet, right?
Yeah, and Rich, you gave me a great idea. It would be cool to get some video testimonies that we could start playing on social media to talk about small groups in the small group season. So that was a great idea.
Dan, like those fears. It would be cool to have people go, well, my fear of not coming was I just wasn't sure, my kids could come. Well, my fear of coming was I just wasn't sure where it was and if I could get there. Well, for me, it was I wasn't sure what they're going to speak on if I would enjoy it. Cover everybody's fear, everybody's concern, and then nobody has an excuse to say, but guess what? If you're afraid, give us a call. We'll talk with you. We'll meet you there, whatever it takes to help you. So you're muted, Dan.
I know I'm listening and amening quietly to myself.
Any other questions or thoughts? Yes, Lily.
Hey. I just want to say thank you for all your advices regarding the group. I don't have a group physically because I was talking to them months ago before the COVID that we're going to integrate a group for myself with Latinx, and also that I have bad connection with my computer. But one of the things I would like to see in a group is not to get lost the focus on Christ. That's my best advice.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not about the food, the potluck. My group, which it was one at church, Master Seed Community, always have a very nice potluck. The conversation extended for an hour, like once a month. But one thing, not only me, but a couple of brothers and sisters from this group share the same feeling that we lost it on not talking about Christ. And when we approached that, they said, no, we're not going to talk about the Bible. So it was something that touched my heart and another a couple of people. That's my concern. And the other concern I have, I don't feel welcome in a new group.
Yeah.
I feel cornered out.
Yep.
So I know that Christ was like that too. So I know that. But I wish I could share love with others in a way of Christ-like. Because every day is a fruit that we have to make it work.
Well,
We
Lily,
never-
you brought up a good point. And this is, we don't have time to do it tonight, but I teach on all kinds of aspects of small groups, from dealing with difficult people to dealing with people who are feeling isolated, to people who, to doing socials in your small group. And what does that look like? I call them strategic fellowships. It's the foyer. It's the gateway to bring people into your small group. They might not come to your group, but they would come to a social event first.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the beginning, but be happy to talk about those at another time. But I do love to shadow. I do like to recommend shadowing, and anybody that comes in that you are, you have any concerns or whatever, for you shadow them, you make sure somebody's with them to make sure they feel comfortable and safe, but everybody else feels safe. But definitely there needs to be a balance, Lily, with socials. And just like prayer, a lot of small groups end up being, the whole thing is prayer. We never get to teaching. And so we definitely have to have a good structure. But I think, Dan, the way Bayside is set up, that's pretty structured in how you do the groups, right?
Yeah, they give you a lot of freedom, but yeah, they have a structure so that somebody that doesn't have a lot of experience could do a group.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. But from a social standpoint of, what do we do? Do we do something on the weekends? And strategic fellowships are a great way to bring somebody in the door that would never come to the actual study for whatever reasons. They don't believe, they're not a believer, they don't want to, they're uncomfortable about the Bible, they don't want to pray. But if you can get them in that first place. And so I would love another time, Dan, to talk